Hey, stop right there. Before you take another sip of that morning coffee, you need to watch this entire video because almost every diabetic I've spoken to over my 20 years of practice is drinking coffee completely wrong. And I don't mean wrong in a small way. I mean in a way that is actively raising their blood sugar, spiking their insulin, and damaging the very organs they're trying to protect. I'm Dr. Maya, and today I'm going to show you the correct way that all diabetics should be drinking coffee. A method so effective that when researchers at Harvard School of Public Health followed over 100,000 adults for more than 20 years, they found that people who drank coffee the right way had up to a 29% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes complications compared to those who didn't. 29%. That is not a small number. That is life-changing. And before we dive into the full breakdown, I want to tease something for you right now. The number one tip on today's list is something almost no diabetic doctor will tell you about in a standard 15-minute appointment. It involves a specific timing window around your coffee that can cut your post-meal blood sugar spike by nearly 30%. I've seen it transform patients in their 70 seconds who had been struggling for decades, so make sure you stay until the very end. But before we get into it, I want to ask you something personal. Go ahead and drop your age in the comments right now. Are you in your 60 seconds, your 70 seconds, your 80 seconds? And tell me, how many cups of coffee do you drink each day? I read every single comment on this channel, and your answer genuinely helps me make better videos for you. This community is everything to me. Now let's count down from number 5 to number 1. The correct ways every diabetic should be drinking coffee, ranked from helpful to absolutely game-changing. Number 5, and this one surprises almost everyone the first time they hear it, is the temperature at which you drink your coffee. Most people grab their mug and drink it piping hot without a second thought. But here is what's happening inside your body when you do that. Researchers at the University of South Denmark published findings showing that drinking beverages at very high temperatures, above 65 degrees Celsius, can irritate the lining of your esophagus and stomach, triggering a mild but consistent stress response in the body. And when your body experiences stress, it releases cortisol. Now, cortisol, that's your stress hormone. Think of it like an alarm bell going off in your bloodstream. It directly tells your liver to dump stored sugar into your blood. For a diabetic, that means a blood sugar spike from your morning coffee that has nothing to do with what's in the cup. It's just the heat. For those of us over 65, this matters even more. After age 65, the lining of your digestive tract becomes thinner and more reactive, meaning that same heat stress triggers a larger cortisol response than it would in a 35-year-old. The practical fix is beautifully simple. Let your coffee cool for 8 to 12 minutes after brewing. Aim to drink it at a comfortable warm temperature, not scalding. A study from the MD Anderson Cancer Center found that this single habit change was associated with measurably lower morning fasting cortisol in adults over 60 who practiced it consistently over 8 weeks. Lower cortisol means lower baseline blood sugar every single morning. Pair this with taking 3 slow, deep breaths before your first sip. It sounds almost too easy, but diaphragmatic breathing activates your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest mode, which counteracts cortisol at the source. Temperature and breath work together create a calmer internal environment for your morning coffee ritual. Number 4, and this one is where I lose a lot of people because it goes against everything the coffee industry has told you, is the type of coffee you're brewing. Not all coffee is the same for diabetics. The processing method, the roast level, and the bean variety all dramatically affect how your blood sugar responds. Here is the science. Coffee contains something called chlorogenic acids. These are powerful antioxidants. Think of them like tiny traffic controllers that slow down how quickly glucose enters your bloodstream after a meal. The problem? These chlorogenic acids are destroyed by high heat roasting. Researchers at the University of Scranton found that light roasted coffees contain up to 60% more chlorogenic acid than dark roasts. 60% more of the compound that directly helps regulate blood sugar. Yet most people default to medium or dark roast because the marketing makes it sound richer and bolder. For diabetics over 70, this is especially critical. After 70, your gut's ability to buffer glucose absorption slows down. Your intestinal cells have fewer of the transporter proteins they had at 40, meaning any help you can get slowing glucose entry is magnified in its benefit. Light roast every morning. Additionally, single origin Arabica beans tend to have higher chlorogenic acid content than blended Robusta varieties. You don't need to spend a fortune. Simply look for the words light roast and Arabica on the label. That's it. Pair your light roast coffee with a quarter teaspoon of cinnamon stirred directly into the grounds before brewing. A landmark study from the Journal of Medicinal Food showed that just 1 gram of cinnamon daily reduced fasting blood sugar by up to 29% in type 2 diabetics over 40 days. When the cinnamon brews with the coffee, the fat-soluble compounds in cinnamon extract more completely into the hot water than they would on top of a finished cup. Now, before we get to the top 3, I want to take a quick moment to ask, if this video is giving you value, please hit that like button right now and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I put out new videos every week specifically designed for people managing their health after 60, and I would hate for you to miss the information that could make the biggest difference. Subscribing takes 2 seconds, and it means the world to this channel. Okay, back to the list. Number 3 is about what you are adding to your coffee, and what you absolutely must stop adding immediately. I want to tell you about Margaret, a 72-year-old retired school teacher from Tucson, Arizona, who came to me with blood sugar numbers that her primary care doctor described as dangerously unmanageable. We went through her entire daily routine together and discovered that her morning coffee, which she drank faithfully every day believing it was helping, contained 2 tablespoons of a popular flavored creamer. That creamer had 11 grams of sugar per serving and was made primarily from hydrogenated vegetable oil. She was essentially starting every single day with a dessert, spiking her insulin before 8 a.m., and then wondering why her readings were high by 9. Within 3 weeks of changing only this one thing, her fasting glucose dropped by 41 points. Margaret cried in my office. She told me nobody had ever looked at the actual details of her morning routine before. What you add to coffee can completely reverse every benefit the coffee itself provides. Flavored creamers, sweetened condensed milk, sugar, artificial sweeteners, yes, even artificial sweeteners, have all been shown in research from the Weizmann Institute of Science to alter the gut microbiome in ways that impair glucose tolerance within just 2 weeks of consistent use. Your gut microbiome, think of it as the entire ecosystem living in your digestive system, directly communicates with your pancreas and influences insulin sensitivity. Disrupt that ecosystem every morning and you are fighting an uphill battle all day. The correct additions for diabetics are full-fat organic cream in small amounts, 1 to 2 tablespoons maximum, or unsweetened almond milk. Full-fat dairy actually contains conjugated linoleic acid, a fatty acid shown in research from Harvard's Nurses' Health Study to improve insulin sensitivity in women over 60. And if you need a touch of sweetness, a few drops of pure monk fruit extract have zero glycemic impact and do not disturb the gut microbiome the way other sweeteners do. Number 2, and this is where things get genuinely fascinating, is the role of coffee timing relative to your meals and specifically relative to your morning walk. Most diabetics drink coffee first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. I understand why. It's the habit, it's comforting, it feels like a ritual. But here is what's happening biologically. On an empty stomach, caffeine causes a rapid spike in both cortisol and adrenaline. Your liver, receiving this hormonal signal, interprets it as a stress response and releases stored glycogen, stored sugar, into your bloodstream. Researchers at the University of Bath in the United Kingdom published a study in the British Journal of Nutrition showing that drinking black coffee before breakfast increased blood glucose response to a subsequent meal by 50% compared to those who had breakfast first. 50% higher blood sugar. from timing alone. The correct protocol is to eat a small, protein forward breakfast first, even just 2 eggs or a handful of almonds. Wait 20 to 30 minutes, and then have your coffee. This sequence means your blood glucose is already being managed by the protein and fat you consumed, and the caffeine's cortisol triggering effect is significantly blunted because your digestive system is already engaged. Now, here is the synergy that makes this extraordinary. If you can take a 10-minute walk within 30 minutes of finishing your coffee, the combination of caffeine's effect on fat metabolism and the muscular glucose uptake from walking creates what researchers at Maastricht University call a metabolic clearing window. Your muscles, which act like enormous glucose sponges, are at peak absorption sensitivity right after caffeine intake combined with light movement. In a clinical trial involving adults over 65, this combination cleared post-meal glucose 37% faster than coffee alone or walking alone. Think of your muscles after a coffee and walk combination like a sponge that has just been squeezed out, ready to absorb every drop of excess sugar from your bloodstream. And now, number one, the most powerful, most overlooked, and most transformative coffee habit for every diabetic watching this video. I want to tell you about Harold, a 78-year-old former electrician from Columbus, Ohio. Harold had been diabetic for 14 years. His A1C, that's your 3-month average blood sugar score, had sat stubbornly at 8.2 for years despite medication. His daughter brought him in after watching one of my earlier videos. We implemented everything on this list, but number one is what Harold told me changed his life. Within 4 months, his A1C dropped to 6.8. His doctor reduced one of his medications. Harold called me on a Tuesday afternoon just to say he had gone grocery shopping, walked the entire store without sitting down on the bench near the entrance, and felt like himself again for the first time in a decade. Number one is using your coffee as a vehicle for targeted magnesium supplementation, timed precisely to your body's cortisol cycle. Here is the science. After age 65, the kidneys become significantly less efficient at retaining magnesium. In fact, research from the National Institutes of Health shows that adults over 65 excrete up to 40% more magnesium in their urine than younger adults, even when consuming the same dietary amount. Magnesium is the mineral that sits at the center of insulin receptor function. Think of each insulin receptor on your cells like a lock, and magnesium is the lubricant that keeps that lock turning smoothly. Without adequate magnesium, insulin knocks on the door and nothing opens. Blood sugar stays elevated. A meta-analysis published in the journal Diabetes Care, covering over 26 studies and nearly 300,000 participants, found that adequate magnesium intake was associated with a 22% reduction in type 2 diabetes risk and significantly improved glycemic control in those already diagnosed. Here is the correct method. Add 100 to 150 milligrams of magnesium glycinate. Glycinate, not oxide, because glycinate absorbs up to 80% more effectively in aging digestive systems. To your coffee after it has cooled slightly. Magnesium glycinate is tasteless and dissolves completely. You won't know it's there. The optimal timing is between 7 and 9 in the morning, which is when your cortisol naturally peaks. Cortisol at its peak depletes magnesium fastest. So supplementing precisely at that window replaces what stress hormones are actively stripping away. It is biochemical defense in real time. Pair this with a 1/4 teaspoon of black seed oil, also called Nigella sativa, stirred in alongside the magnesium. A randomized controlled trial from the Diabetes and Metabolic Syndrome Journal showed that Nigella sativa supplementation over 12 weeks reduced fasting blood sugar by an average of 45 milligrams per deciliter in type 2 diabetics. Combined with magnesium's insulin receptor support, this pairing addresses blood sugar regulation from 2 completely separate biological pathways simultaneously. Always check with your doctor before adding any supplement, particularly if you are on blood pressure or blood thinning medications. The scientific references for all studies mentioned today are linked in the description below. Here is what I want you to really hear before you close this video. You did not arrive at this point in your health journey because you made bad choices. You arrived here because nobody gave you the right information at the right time. The medical system is busy, appointments are short, and the details, the temperature of your coffee, the roast level, the timing, the additions, the magnesium, those details rarely make it into a 15-minute checkup. But those details are where your quality of life lives. I have watched patients in their late 70 seconds reverse years of poor glucose control by changing habits that cost them nothing. I have watched people who shuffled into my office feeling like their best years were behind them, walk out with a plan that gave them their mornings back, their energy back, their independence back. It is never too late. Your body, even at 80, is biologically capable of responding to the right inputs. You just have to give it the chance. If this video helped you today, please subscribe to this channel and hit the bell so you never miss a new video. And I want to hear from you in the comments. Which of these 5 tips are you going to try first? And has your doctor ever talked to you about coffee timing and blood sugar? Let me know. I read every comment. I'll see you in the next one.